So I was saying a few moments ago that this particular class at this time of day, we're in the Pitta season of the year, but this is the Kapha window of the day on the west coast and into Alaska. If we were in Hawaii, this would actually be the Vata period of the day. It'd be much earlier. And where Linda Kay is, she's off in the UK. So what time is it there? 4 o'clock? 5 o'clock. So you're actually in the Vata window of the day also. You're in the afternoon Vata. Hawaii is in the morning Vata right now. And the rest of us who I see here, we're in the Kapha period of the day. Kapha means earth and water combined. So it's the foundation from which you grow your garden, for example. Most of us know that if we planted the garden and there wasn't enough sunlight, enough pitta, the garden wouldn't then grow. But this is the Kapha part of the day. So we don't need a really fast-moving practice, but we do want to honor the strength of Kapha in our structure. And that's like stamina, stability, nurturance, a container that holds things. So let's sit for a few moments of quiet together, please. Thank you for being here. You can rest your hands in your lap and let your eyes close. And try to feel into what is foundational for you in your seat. So just starting in this little geographical zone that you're sitting in and inside your own body. What's foundational? So you might notice things like where you're connected with the ground. You might notice the way you set up your hips and pelvis, or the seat, the actual seat you're sitting on. You might notice where your hands make contact with your lap. And more internal than those things, where your breath is making contact with your body. And then you can ask even more deeply than like the physical structure or the breath, what's foundational for you, like as a life value or a quality, a way that you want to live? Maybe you have certain values for humanity or for the ecology. Maybe they're the same kinds of values, or a value you have in your household, which you might also hold for society. What would be a foundational quality or value for you? And how can you then bring that into your practice this morning so you sense it in your body? For example, if one of your values is reciprocity or collaboration, then how do you have that experience between you and your body? If you have a particular value in yoga, we say Ahimsa, a value for the absence of harm. How will you express that during your yoga practice? Between you and your mind, you and your breath, your heart, you and your body. And just letting these questions sort of resonate or land in your awareness now, please bring your hands together in Anjali Mudra. And we'll be chanting together the Om Namah Shivaya Gurave chant. So the first line, Om Namah Shivaya Gurave, means we honor the teacher within us, that teacher that brings us into integrity, that brings us into our wisest self. Then we say, Sat Chidananda Murtaye The teacher in us is comprised of truth, wisdom, and bliss. We say Nishprapanchaya Shantaya. And this teacher brings peace, dispels darkness and brings peace. Niralambaya Tejase, and reminds us of that which is unconditional and luminous. So we'll sing together. Let's begin. Om Namah Shivaya Gurave Satchidananda Murtaye Nishprapanchaya Shantaya Niralambaya Tejase. Om Namah Shivaya Gurave Satchidananda Murtaye Nishprapanchaya Shantaya Niralambaya Tejase. Om Namah Shivaya Gurave Satchidananda Murtaye Nishprapanchaya Shantaya Niralambaya Tejase. Om Shanti Om Shanti Shanti Om. You may bow your head to your heart and release your hands. Please open your eyes if they're closed. I'm going to scoot back so you can see me a little bit better. And I'd like to work this morning to start with the hands, wrists, shoulders, and neck. So take your right palm face up and then turn the hand inside out like so. And when you're stretching your right wrist and your fingers, which you can pull back towards your hand like that, relax your right shoulder. So it doesn't need to be tense in the process. And breathe in smoothly through your nose, down into your pelvis. And then exhale, release your right hand, keeping your palm face up. Go under, hold your right thumb, and then stretch your thumb away from your fingers. Yeah. And as you open your thumb, stretch between your wrist and the base of the thumb, that spot that is actually called the thenar eminence. Has a very affectionate name, the thenar eminence. Relax your shoulders as you do this. Breathe in. And then exhale to release that one. Now take your right wrist and shake it. You can let the fingers and the thumb go limp. And as you're shaking, see if you can shake it loose from your shoulder, for your upper arm, your elbow, your forearm. The fingers and thumbs might start feeling a little bit heavier because the blood supply is going down towards your hand right now. And then shake it 3 times vigorously. 1, 2, 3. And let your right arm dangle and notice what it feels like from your earlobe to your fingers. And then take your right hand like this. So you're going to bring it up almost like you're going to go to Anjali Mudra, but turn your right hand inside out. Hold your the back of your palm and your thumb and pull down. So you're stretching your wrist here, and it's a twist because you've got your hand rotating, and when you pull down, it's also wrist flexion. So breathe into your right wrist. And if for any of you your wrist is tight or tired or sore from, let's say, computer work or gardening, whatever it happens to be, sometimes people actually feel a little bit nauseous when they stretch the wrist like this. So relax the belly if you can. And then Release your right hand, and once more let it dangle, and notice the difference if you dangle both arms. What's different left to right? Now take your left palm forward, hold all 4 fingers, turn inside out. As you're drawing your fingers back, reach out through the heel of your left hand and try to relax your left shoulder. Right, so breathing in. And breathing out. The left shoulder does not need to crowd your left earlobe. And the process of the stretching right now, imagine the muscles from your left elbow on the top of your forearm all getting longer. Your fingers have muscles that are quite long up into your forearm. We're going to release that one. Keep your left palm face up. Go under with your right hand and stretch your left thumb. Again, you can relax your left shoulder so it doesn't have to crowd your earlobe. Breathe in into your left hand. And then releasing. Now we can shake. So in the shaking process, for some of us, we haven't done this sort of shaking practice very often. So it seems like, well, how do I let go of my elbow? Start with your fingers, start with your thumb, and also the mind and your tongue, and see if the arm can be rubbery, like a wet spaghetti noodle. Then we'll do it 3 times strongly, so we go 1, 2, 3. Let your arm dangle and try to notice, okay, how the circulation is running from your earlobe back down your shoulder into your hand. And then bring your palm up like you're going to Anjali Mudra, but turn it around. Hold the back of your hand and pull down. And then you have wrist flexion. Michael's wrist flexion is a little bit limited right now. Life does that with computers and gardening and other small, like even knitting and handcrafts and stuff. We don't often stretch our wrists or fingers. We don't often enough do it. So breathe in. And then release that one. Now one more thing for the wrists. Take both hands forward. Turn your hands away from each other. Now watch closely. Take your left hand over your right and interlace your fingers. Okay, now bring the hands under and in between. And for anybody who would like, you can straighten the arms from here. I cannot straighten mine. I have stiff wrists. But it's a twist for the wrists. It's a stretch for the forearms. Let's breathe in. There are people who can straighten their arms in this position. I don't see that anybody with their camera turned on this morning is one of those people, but they do exist. I have seen them. It's never been me. My wrists aren't built like that. And then we're going to come in and down, reach forward, and then change the hands. Yes, good, Tina. Sometimes people get confused there, so you guys all got it. Curl through. Yep. And breathing. Sometimes, amazingly, stretching your hands or your wrists, you can feel a little bit nauseous, so breathe into the belly. Relax the inner body. You're only stretching your wrists. You do not need to tense the tongue or the abdomen. And bring this one through and release. Let both arms relax. Yeah. And your hands might feel a little bit warmer. And sometimes when your hands warm up, your body's going to your parasympathetic nervous system. And if you've been a little bit sympathetically oriented, like ungrounded or anxious, you could feel kind of suddenly very tired, which would be a sign that your body's recalibrating. It's okay. Please come up to standing now. And we'll go to my standing camera, Susie. Let me just make sure it's level. Great. Is that working? Okay, level. Good. Okay. Come up to standing, and if you'll make a rolled blanket like this, please. And for those of you who don't know how I did it, if you take your blanket and you open it from the storage fold like this, and then you roll it snugly. You could also use a rolled yoga mat if you don't have a blanket. And I would like you to step up onto your rolled blanket so your arches are on the high point of the blanket. Yep. And when your arches are there on the high point of the blanket, maybe neither your heels nor your toes are touching the floor. That's going to be okay. So then interlace your fingers here. Take the heels of your hands forward, and while keeping your balance, raise your arms up. And come back to the question now, what's foundational for you? What's foundational in this pose and also in your breath? And the question of what's foundational, of course, goes beyond just your physical yoga pose and beyond the breath. It's also a quality of mind while you're practicing. Now see if you can maintain your foundation and look up towards the knuckles. And inhale, press up. Then exhale, sweep your arms wide, bring your gaze forward, reach back and interlace your fingers. If neither your heels nor your toes are touching the floor, as mine are not, go ahead and keep practicing that way. Squeeze your shoulders back. Give a good strong activation to your upper back muscles. With your tailbone grounded and without hyperextending your knees. Listen in the physical body, where is your foundation being supported from? Now, that means physically, also with your breath, and also with your mind. And if you can keep your balance on your rolled blanket or mat, start looking up with your heart, with your collarbones, and with your eyes. It would not surprise me if your foundation needs more attention when you're looking up like this. And then please level your head, sweep your arms wide. Now cross your right elbow over your left to the best of your ability. You can wrap the arms like eagle pose. If your arms don't wrap easily because life has been lived and one arm doesn't do it very well, then hold the shoulders. And for everyone, elbows up at the height of your shoulders, and then take both elbows to your left as you gaze over your right shoulder. And while standing on your blanket roll, see to what extent you can keep your foundation, not because your eyes or your tongue or your teeth are doing it, but because your body, your breath, and your mind are working together. And then come back to center, release your arms, see if you can take them wide without losing your balance. And then wrap your left elbow over your right elbow. Good. And as you wrap around, bring your elbows up to the height of your shoulders. And now both elbows to your right as you look over your left shoulder. And do your best to keep your balance there. It might be an easier one than when you were looking up, but try to keep the same kind, respectful attention at your foundation. And breathing in. When you exhale, rotate to face forward, arms wide, keeping your balance as you can. Raise your arms up and look up. And notice whenever you gaze up, like this sort of aspirational experience, what happens to your foundation? And then sweep your arms wide and down. And please step backwards from your blanket. Feet on the solid ground once again, unless you're practicing on a boat. And notice how this feels. Like stand in mountain pose and just become aware. Sometimes I think it's like when you shake the salad dressing and it gets all emulsified, and then you put the salad dressing bottle on the counter and you watch the particles do their thing. Please take a wide stance on your yoga mat. You can put your blanket aside and reach for 2 blocks. Take a wide stance and please come down into Prasarita Padottanasana with your palms on your blocks or your fingertips. If your wrists prefer for you to use your fingertips, go ahead and do that. When you inhale, I'd like you to lengthen the front of your spine like when we do cow pose and the spine arches. And then when you exhale, press down into both hands or fingertips, both arms, and curl down towards your legs, like when we do the cat pose. And so the inhale is going to be a movement forward for your spine, your heart, and your eyes. And the exhale is a movement downward and inward, including your arms, your torso, your head, and your eyes. Ujjayi, inhale forward, please. And an Ujjayi exhale when you go down and inward. I'd like you to do this 4 times more and to really notice the pace with which you are moving. Having done those other practices, what is the pace of your mind, your breath, and your body? And do it twice more, please. Also notice any increased ease for you this morning in being connected to your own rhythm. Since we really only worked with the hands, wrists, and so on so far, but it might have influenced how you respect the rhythm of your body. One more time, glide forward. Now take both blocks and walk them well ahead of you. And you can do this with flat palms or on your fingertips. The value of the fingertips is that you lift the centers of your palms, the heels of your hands, the underside of your forearms, and that lift goes up into the inner armpits. For everyone, widen your shoulder blades around your rib cage and lengthen your mid-back and your lower back. And as you breathe in, you can close the eyes if you like. As you breathe in and out with the Ujjayi breath, ask again, how are you right now expressing that which is a foundational quality for you in your life? How is it being expressed at this moment in your practice? And you can check certain parts of your body that are like high activators or low activators. Some of the high activators, people tend to overuse their quadriceps sometimes, or they'll underuse them. You could check what's happening with your jaw or your tongue. Sometimes the elbows become low activators. We become a little bit lazy there. Sometimes the chin pushes down towards the floor. So in that case, you'd want to be toning your arm muscles and lifting the base of your skull. One more breath cycle, please. And then walk your hands and your blocks back towards your feet and rise up to standing. And let's go heel toe until you're stepping into the center of your mat. And once more, relax and notice, okay, what is happening within you? Okay, now we're going to step into Warrior II and a couple others. Let me change my view, please. I want to see more of you if I can. I have to put it on the wide part of my screen here. Momentito. Let's see. I'm working on my finger dexterity. All right, there we go. Okay, so we're going to be doing Warrior II, and we're going to incorporate the blanket roll. So that'll seem unusual to some of you. Let me show you where the blanket roll goes. So if you keep the blanket rolled pretty snugly, You're going to be placing it so that your foot goes on the blanket roll. Your right foot in this case. So that means you're going to have less firm foundation to stand on. So you place your right foot and then step your left foot back. And check that you're lining your heels up left to right on your mat also. Yep. And when you bring your right knee over, you really are centering your knee over your shin, over your heel. People tend to slide back a little ways, so they tend to go too far forward. So look for this to be vertical for right now. Yep. Place your hands on your hips. Good job. And zip the pubic bone up while you also just gently tone the hip bones in right through here. Okay, very nice. Sweep your arms wide and gaze to your right. So when you're practicing with your foot on the blanket roll, you're kind of massaging the arch of your foot. Right? There is sensation at the arch of the foot. And perhaps your right heel and toes don't reach the floor, just like mine don't. But you can stretch the right toes forward and flare them to wake up the muscles of your right foot. Good. So as you're gazing to your right, now close the eyes and see to what extent you can sustain your balance from your right foot up your right shin to your right thigh. Press your right knee open. From your right thigh, take your gaze inwardly to the left belly, and then down your left leg into your left heel, left inner arch, left big toe. Noticing that foundation without opening your eyes, raise your arms up overhead. And then when you exhale, open your arms and turn your gaze to your left. Even though your eyes are closed, don't change the foundation of your pose, please. And inhale, raise your arms up, bring your head to center. Eyes are still closed. Exhale, open your arms wide, gaze to your right, keeping the eyes closed. Once more, inhale, rise up. Bring your head to center, keep your foundation very steady. And exhale, gaze to the left, eyes closed, open your arms wide. Now bring your right forearm down to your right thigh, open your eyes and sweep your left arm past your ear. So the movement you were doing there, while keeping your foundation stable, kind of reflects the experience of life. We have our foundational qualities, our values, our intentions. And then life is asking us to keep adapting, moving, responding, participating. Let's breathe in one more time here down to your low belly. And then exhale, push down through your right foot, rise up, straighten your right knee, and thoughtfully step your right foot off of your blanket and come to mountain pose. I want you to notice the two hemispheres of your body will likely feel pretty different. Notice your right arch relative to your left. Right thigh, left thigh. Right hip, left hip. Maybe it feels like you have two different bodies. Can you take your blanket roll, please, to the other side? And step your left foot up on the blanket roll and your right foot back. In your Warrior II stance, just give a little check that your shin is vertical. That's good, Evelyn, yeah. Yeah, you're vertical. Sweep the arms wide, called Warrior II. And gaze out over your left fingertips and see if you might close your eyes. I know you know this pose and I can see that you know it. I see that your foundation appears to be really stable. I can tell for those of you for whom I can see your feet, you are lined up heel to heel. Your left shins appear to be vertical right now from the angle that I have. So with your eyes closed, place your mind down into your left foot, spread the toes forward and widen them out. Even if they're not touching the floor, good, Evelyn. Like a Japanese fan, open the toes. And then press the left knee open and let your mind travel along the inseam of your left leg and into your right low belly. And then breathe down into your right leg towards your right heel. So with your eyes closed, you can see these things from the inside because you have a little mental map of yourself from within. Now we're going to inhale. Raise both arms and center your head, please. Yes, beautiful. And then exhale, gaze to your right, eyes closed. Inhale, raise your arms, center your head. You still have a mental map of your foundation. Exhale, gaze to your left, eyes closed. Inhale, raise your arms, center your head. Exhale, gaze to your right, eyes closed. Now, bring your left forearm to your left thigh. Open your eyes, bring your right arm past your right ear. Linda, it's nice to see your pose backlit. It'd be beautiful. So when you're stretching here through your right arm and into your right heel, look for the strength and stability of your back leg. My sense is that Richie really has her right heel rooted into the mat, as does Evelyn. Lengthen your left inner thigh, and I think I'm speaking to Michael. And a little bit for Colleen, though your angle, I can't see it so specifically as I can see Michael's. You breathe in through the nose, down to your belly. When you exhale, press into your left foot, rise up, straighten your left leg. And then you can bring the right foot closer if you need to before you step your left foot in to mountain pose, or use the wall, a countertop, or a chair to stabilize. And let's come to mountain pose and ask, okay, now how about the arches? What is happening at the foundation? And even if you really relax, what is the feeling of the arches having been on the blanket roll? Mine feels supported. They're not as inclined to droop. But you have your own experience, of course. Now I'd like us to bring a chair onto the yoga mat so we can address the hip flexors. And your chair ideally doesn't have arms, but I know some of you, you're sheltering in place with what you have, so we can adapt. Now, based on your height and the height of your chair and the flexibility of your hip flexors, you're going to make some choices here about the foundation of this pose. So I'm going to show you with me. And then you can make some decisions about you. So when I sit in this chair, if I turn to my right, which is what I'm going to be asking you to do, and I take my left knee to the block and my right hip on the chair seat, one thing that's happening is that my hips are now lower than my right knee. So while it's helpful that my left knee reaches the block so easily, it's not helpful that my right knee is higher than my hips. So I take my blanket to sit on. And I'm just going to start with one fold on my blanket. We don't want the pelvis to be higher or lower, really, than the right knee. Higher is better if that's how it turns out, but lower is not so great. So now when I sit on my blanket, my hips and my right knee are closer in height, more equal. I'm going to push my block forward so that my right thigh is the same height as my right hip. And here the left knee easily reaches my yoga block. But you might need a different situation. If you have long thigh bones, you might need to have your knee on a blanket, not a block. Like Richie has a taller chair than I do, but she's also taller than I am. That's a good setup, Evelyn. Yeah. So Michael, maybe one more support under your left knee. It's hard to see specifically, but it looks like you have to go down with your knee to reach the block. So if we raise your block a tiny bit. Yeah. Linda Kay, you look good there. What I can see. That's it, Colleen. Yep. That seems better, Michael. Does it feel more stable for you? Okay. Alrighty. So what we're going to do now, when you have your left thigh, try to make it straight down from your left hip. I know that for some of you, your left knee is going to be a little bit forward of your left hip right now, and you're going to feel your quadriceps. But for those who can, put your left knee directly under your left hip so we can feel into the hip flexor here. Okay, both hands on the front of your hip bones. Lift up with your hip bones, root down with your tailbone. Tone your left butt. I want you to squeeze the muscles on the backside of your left butt. And if you feel like you can't find them, that's an indicator. Breathe down into your belly. If you are unable to squeeze your left butt muscles, that might indicate that your left hip flexors are tighter compared to the strength of your left butt. And your left butt is part of what you need as a resource to be strong enough to help you open the hip flexors on the front side of your pelvis. And let's raise both arms up. Should not feel like you're overarching your lower back to raise your arms, but almost like you're lifting the balloon part of a hot air balloon. The pelvis is the basket, and we want the basket to be still roped down to the ground. We have not lifted the hot air balloon off the earth yet. And keeping your tailbone anchored, squeeze your left butt muscles. Breathe into your low belly. And as you keep your left butt strong, start to lower your arms down slowly, slowly. And then holding the upper back of the chair and the seat of the chair as you need to. Bring your left foot around to release from the pose and turn to face forward for a few moments. Just come into noticing what moves in you as a result of that. And now from where you are looking, please watch me for a moment. I'm going to demonstrate the next step. So the right foot on the block, left knee on the block. And for me, I have my toes tucked under because we're going to be straightening the back leg. So where I am on my position, if I hold the upper back of my chair with my right hand, I can straighten my left leg and rise up. And I also have the capacity to touch my right hip down and then to thoughtfully place my left knee back on the block. I am holding the upper back of the chair here with my right hand, just so you can see that. So I'd like us to try this out and to see what kind of strength do we have for rooting down and then having the hips float up into position. And then how do we come back down thoughtfully? Okay, so let's try it together. There you are, good. So hold the upper back of the chair with your right hand. Plan for your right shin to be vertical, so your heel is directly under your knee. Tuck the left toes under. Let's breathe in. And the next step is to straighten the left leg and press into your right heel to float up, just like you learned to levitate. And keeping your leg steady, raise only your left arm up overhead. Keep the left leg strong all the way into your toes. The tailbone still strong. Squeeze your left butt muscles. With your right knee forward, press down into your right heel. Breathe into the foundation of your pose. And explore to what extent you could raise your gaze without losing your balance. And you can level your gaze, open your left arm out to the side as a balance aid. Slowly bring your right hip down to the chair. Hold the upper back of the chair with your right hand. And then lower your left knee back down to the block. And turn to face forward. Notice again what's been activated. And then please watch me one more time. So I'll go back to our starting setup. We're doing the right side all together because then we'll switch the blocks to do the left side. So I'm holding the upper back of my chair again. The left leg straightens. The pose comes up. Here we are. And then we're going to explore keeping the right leg steady if you're able to rotate your pelvis. So my right thigh is not moving, but I am turning my whole pelvis to put the back heel down. And I do still have support from my chair. I just have my hand back here. For those who need that, you keep that right there. For those who want, you can become free of the chair. And then to come back down, we are going to place the right hip on the chair seat. And we will once more release the legs and see how we're doing. Okay, right side one more time. So put your right foot up on your block. Your left knee. That's the squeaking sound of my chair, you guys. It's not my hip replacement squeaking like that. I don't have titanium on titanium in my hip. I have different substance. So the squeak is my chair. Hold the upper back with your right hand, upper back of the chair. You breathe in to your foundation. And then exhale, straighten your left leg, press into your right heel so you float up. Raise your left arm. Now really concentrate here on keeping your right thigh stable. It's going to be a lot more stable if you've already lifted your pubic bone. If you don't have your right hip resting on your thigh bone, place your left hand on your left hip and start turning your pelvis to your left. Lengthen your right inner thigh even as you place your left heel down. Yeah, so you're just levitating. Nice job, Colleen. Hovering above the chair. And for those who have a desire for both wings to stretch, good Denise, stretch out, the beautiful Christine. Keep the pubic bone lifted. So there is this quiet tone in the belly. If this was the basket, the hot air balloon basket, you want to support your students, your passengers, your friends and family. And we're going to place both hands on the hips, and you can choose now one hand on the upper back of the chair, one hand towards the seat of the chair, and you come down and release to face forward. Rest your hands in your lap. And let your concentration and your attention go inside. I'm enjoying the way you go into your own concentration between the poses to really feel like here's your body having this experience. Here are your efforts. These are the things that get reflected back to you from your efforts. Let's go to the other side. So you're going to place the two blocks opposite. Now it's possible, I'm thinking about Michael and others, where I had him raise his block a tiny bit for his left knee, and it's possible that that was required for both sides, or that was specific to one side of his pelvis or the other. So when you check it out, go ahead and check your whole position here again. Sometimes the differences left to right are structural. and they may not change, like it's the length of your bones or the shape of the hip socket or the angle of the hip socket itself. But other times it's muscular, and that can be updated by how we're working with the psoas, for example. Okay, so let's put both hands on the front of the hip bones and lift your frontal hip bones up. Zip your pubic bone up. And then tone your right butt muscles. If you aren't sure, you can poke your right butt with your thumb and check. It should not feel like the Pillsbury Doughboy. I mean, part of it might, but it should feel toned underneath that part. Thanks for checking, Christy. Yeah. And let's hold steady, see if you can breathe into and sustain your foundation. When your tailbone goes down and the butt muscles turn on the right side, your right hip flexors are getting a message that you want them to be able to release. And since our hip flexors tend to hold some of the patterns of tension and apprehension, you might consider what you're releasing right now and letting those muscles lengthen. If you can, you're welcome to raise your right arm. You could also raise both arms for this one, since we're going to keep the left hip on the chair seat. You might see if you can keep the right hip stable, right butt toned as you raise your gaze. When you next exhale, then float your arms wide. And as you come down, use the chair to help you to rotate to center. Just pausing. Each pause is like letting your body acclimate. Kind of like when you're eating a meal and you have one portion go to your mouth, you chew it, you enjoy it, you swallow it, and you don't yet have the next forkful ready there at the lips. You are welcoming a moment of digestion. Now we'll go to the first crescent lunge here. So we're going to rotate once more. Place your right knee on your block, your left foot up on your block. Tuck your right toes under behind you. Yeah, so Evelyn, your foundation is really stable, and it looks like your left knee is a little bit behind your left heel, so you can assess for yourself since you can see better than I can. You know, you guys are much closer to your own knees than I'm able to be right now. Holding the upper back of the chair with your left hand might provide some stability. Okay, so let's breathe into the pelvis and the low belly. And then exhale and straighten your right leg, press into your left heel so that as you hover up, as you levitate, you've got a full sense of strength in your foundation. Beautiful strength, Christine. That's great. Tina, that's awesome. So I can see your shin and your thigh really well, and your structure is very stable there. Also for Colleen, the angle that I have this time is different than your first side, and I can see it's elegant and strong. So let's now, you can choose if you want to raise your right arm up. Look for the stability of your foundation. As I'm seeing it here, you have established your foundation, so keep your breath and explore if it's appropriate for you to raise your gaze up. That will challenge your balance at your foundation unless you keep your mental map of your foundation even as you raise your gaze. And we'll exhale, take the right arm out to the side, gaze level, and slowly lower your left hip down to your chair seat, and then your right knee to its block. Step your left foot forward of its block inside the angle so you can turn to sit center. So you had a delicious bite of food. Now we're having a little bit of digestion. I know that many people eat with the next forkful is already there. What if the food you're chewing in your mouth feels like you're being impatient with the next forkful waiting so quickly? And now we'll take it up to Crescent Lunge and over to Warrior II. So please turn and place your left foot up on your block, right knee on your block. Root your tailbone down. Connect to your breath so you're connected again to your foundation. When you exhale, use the strength of your exhale to straighten your right leg, press into your left heel and float up. You may raise your right arm. You might keep holding the upper back of the chair with your left hand. And bring your right hand to your right hip. Now, thoughtfully, without your left thigh wavering, start turning your pelvis to your right so that when you place your right heel down, your pelvis has already made the turn. And the left inner thigh has stayed long right through here. Zip the pubic bone up and then sweep your arms out. Yes. So I'm enjoying the lightness of the torso and the heart that I can see for Richie and also for Christine. And please know that I can't see everybody in the same angle or in the same way. So I'm not leaving you out. I'm only noticing what I can see and what I can say. Let's keep the breath coming down into the pelvis. Your foundations look really stable. And for that, I can see Tina, Linda, Evelyn, Colleen, and Michael. Let's do one more breath. And when you exhale, lower your arms. Good. And take hold of the chair seat or the upper back. Lower the left hip down. And sit center. You may close your eyes. What I could see for Denise and Anne there was a sense of the concentration, and the amount of picture I have of each of you practicing shows me more where is your mind. I could not see your legs, but the mind is not likely to be stable if the legs are unstable, so I got a little hint. Okay, now we're going to use a wide seat on the chair and 2 blocks. So please come forward on the edge of your chair. I don't know how to stop that squeak, so thanks for just listening through it. Feet wide, heels wide, come down so that you have support for your head. Reach between the inner thighs to hold the toes or legs of the chair that you're sitting on. So in this position, this is a really important time for your body to be relaxed. And for some of you, having 3 or 4 or 5 blocks for the head to reach to would be okay. I like that Richie has 2 blocks tall, so that's a higher reach, and she's a taller person than me. Each one of you has your own structure and also your own chair. So while breathing in, I see that Anne's mind is completely clear. It's because I see no Anne. She is completely translucent. She has made it to the Samadhi. You guys, it's only because of what's in her frame, what's not in her frame right now. I'm just giving a little tease to Anne. Okay, let's take one more breath in here. And then exhale completely. Shift your hands to your knees. Press down to rise up. Oh, and Anna's returning. It's, you know, where the camera is on the computer and how that shows up. It's just different person to person. Okay, let's use the chair since we have it. We'll use it for Shavasana. This is where I expect that your dogs and cats come into view. We'll see who we can see. So what I'd like us to do is take the chair to elevate the legs, as we often do. And I want you to have a blanket, please, for your pelvis. So if you take your blanket and you fold it in half from the storage fold, place it in front of your chair. We're going to do Padottanasana first and then the Shavasana. So while you're getting set up, I will show you what it looks like. You will start with the feet at the edge of the chair like this, and then we'll take the feet over the chair like this. And I know that some of you have told me that the edge of your chair is sharp. You don't have a round lip on the chair like I do. So if it's sharp, please put a blanket there. Make it suitable. I don't want you to be distracted by pain at the outsides of your feet in this Padottanasana. We also want you to be able to take your feet and legs out over the chair seat. So you'll decide how you'll best do that when the time comes. Let's start with Padottanasana, please. And place your hands on your pelvis if that's comfortable, or on the low belly. And ask again, okay, how's the foundation doing? How is the foundation in Padottanasana here? We want the legs to go to a place where they feel really kind of completely relaxed. And the inner thighs and the inner groin also relax. The pelvis. When you sense the breath coming and going more evenly, then fold your knees up to center and reach your shins out over the chair seat. If you have a chair seat that has a back on it, you might consider placing your feet on the upper back of the chair up high so your knees are supported. You might consider turning your chair sideways also. Let your eyes close and consider resting in the foundation of your pose, but more importantly, in the foundational qualities of your life. To rest in the foundational qualities of your life. Let your mind not wander during Shavasana. Let all of the effort of your practice fade. So the integration of your foundation, your intention, the medicine of the practice. The integration is like when we steep tea, herbal tea with many herbs in it. Right now we simply allow for the steeping. Allow the entire body to relax, to soften, like the peppermint leaf surrenders to the tea water, as the rose hips give way to the water of the tea. As the chamomile allows its essence to be infused with the water. Allow your shavasana to be like steeping the tea. And quietly over the next few moments, just welcome awareness to return. Gently welcome a slightly deeper breath. And then gently wiggle your fingers and your toes. Please slide your knees in towards your chest. And then roll to your side. When you're ready to, please use both hands to come up to sitting. When you come up to sit, take a comfortable and upright seat. And sensing the foundation of your seat and your practice, but also the foundational qualities of your life. Bring your hands together at your heart. Thank you very much, everyone. Namaste.